And we're live! That was really kind of sad, actually. Welcome, everyone, to episode 115 of the Crafty Boys. And, of course, this week, someone else living on the island, I won't mention who, picked the beer, and us here on the mainland can't find it. So,
just goes to show how badly Lower Mainland sucks.
This is true. This is true. So basically, I'll let Alan introduce the beer, and then Locke will introduce the beer that we chose instead. Alan, over to you.
All right. Well, actually, I didn't pick this beer.
Who picked the beer? Dave.
I think it was you, actually. Okay, so here's the deal. Okay. So Shane.
Who picked the beer?
Shane picked the beer during our last show. He emailed all of us, and it was going to be from Longwood Brewing, the big one, which was an IPA. I went out looking for it. I couldn't find it anywhere. Dave up in his neck of the woods couldn't find it anywhere. So we got something else instead. Also from Longwood, we got Stoutnik, which is a Russian Imperial Stout. Bottle. It is cool. It comes in a flat black painted bottle. And you can see it's got a little picture of Sputnik there. Everything. This is, I imagine in Soviet Russia, Stoutnik drinks you.
I heard that in 1981.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so that's what we got. And you guys couldn't find it. So you guys got something else. What did you guys get?
We got something else. Locke, do the honors.
Right. What we got was Rad Seeker.
Rad Seeker. IPA.
So this is what some people are calling a Northeast IPA.
This is a big thing right now, apparently, at least here anyway.
So this is Boombox Brewing. My understanding is that Boombox are ultimately a roving brewmaster. That is to say, they do not have an established brewery, so they use other people's facilities. In this case, they used. This was brewed at, where was this brewed?
Boombox.
No, this was brewed at Dogwood Brewing. So using Dogwood Brewing's facilities and a mobile canning line, they did a short run called Rad Seeker. And this is the new thing right now. They're doing short runs of very tasty, very cool beers that ultimately sell out quickly. And so everybody gets excited, tries to get them early and all that kind of stuff. I happened to luck out and notice this thing, it having been introduced to Shane and I by Julian the other night. And we've already tasted this once, and it is fantastic. So it's a 7%.
Oh, good.
What it uses is hop emulsification. So the idea is they try to spin the liquid while they're hopping it. The idea is they don't want to be using the hops as a bittering agent, but rather just to get the oils and the esters. And so as a result, it's got a ton of citrus, but it doesn't have the big heavy bitter hit that a Northwest IPA normally has. So that's the style. That's sort of roughly how it's done. Yeah, we're gonna crack her open and pour this.
And it has a very.
All right, I've already cracked open my Stoutnik.
Yeah, I got a Stoutnik. Can is very like new retro wave.
And you can also see that because it is a mobile line that they're doing, like a mobile canner or something. Apparently, it's a large truck that drives up to the brewery and has like a small canning line in it. So they're pretty generic, aluminum cans. And then they have a labeler that has this, the labels rolled onto it, which is very similar to how the labels for Yellow Dog, I think, are done.
Yes.
So, which actually, I got to say, it gives the cans a nice finish, and you're not, spending a whole lot of time painting them or however the hell that process works. So I'm holding my beer up to the thing now. You can see.
That's the other thing is, yeah,
it's not filtered. It's cloudy as hell.
Yeah.
But it smells like a lemon had sex with some hops.
Wow. I'd like to try that. Now, the Stoutnik is, as you would expect, very, very dark in color. It's a 7.5% alcohol by volume. Unfortunately, I can't find much information about it because Longwood's website is apparently suffering some problems right now. If you look up the beer, you get a little bit of information about the beer that's kind of covered up by their logo. And then you get all of these links for various drugs. So it looks like
drugs. I think good drugs.
It looks like their website has maybe been hacked or something. I'm not sure, but at any rate, I can't find out much information.
I want to know where the
it's looking okay. It's looking okay from Shane's machine.
Oh, really? Okay, I tried it using 2 different browsers. That's I haven't experienced this on any other websites I visited, so I was thinking it wasn't me, but I don't know.
They're going to be at the Great Canadian Beer Fest.
They certainly are.
It looks they look okay. They do look okay.
Now, interestingly, apparently on the bottle is Morse code on the label.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
now, I don't know if that's coming from the.
Is it raised on the side of the
bottle? See, they have that there.
Is that not Braille?
But you can actually see on the label underneath the glue, there's all these little sort of bumps and stuff. I don't know if that's supposed to be.
Is that not Braille?
No, it's not Braille.
That is probably all Morse code.
It could be Morse code from whatever Stoutnik was pouring out.
Yeah, I don't know what it means though. I'm curious to find out. Anyway, the bottle looks fantastic. I mean, it's like I say, it's spray painted flat black. It's interesting presentation, and I really love it. You get kind of licoricey kind of flavors with it. It's very sweet. I'd almost put it in the same category as more like a porter than I would a stout, just by flavor.
Yeah. What about you, Dave? What do you think?
I'm not sure about the porter thing. Not sure I can get on that particular train. But I'm liking this. This is really tasty stuff. Lots of good flavorness, and lacks the bitterness, which is a big plus in my books.
Well, a stout, you wouldn't expect bitterness from a stout, I don't think.
Yeah, not really. I mean, they're not necessarily using hops that are going to create that amount of.
That's fair.
That amount of nastiness. I'm trying to think of something really. I don't know what else to say other than it's nastiness.
Well, you're not going to get something that's really green usually. Although that would be an interesting thing. Imagine you did take a stout recipe and use hops that had a really bright, sort of fresh hop kind of a zing to them. That could be kind of interesting.
Well, this one here, I mean, this is very much a cloudy IPA with a lot of flavor to it. It's
so that when I talk about that business about hop emulsification and trying to get the oils out, resiny. It's resiny without the sort of the bittering quality that you get from the sort of the leaf itself, if you see what I mean.
Right. Well, that's good. I mean, it looks fantastic. I wish I was I wish I could partake in that with you, but I'm happy with the Stoutnik.
Guys are just gonna have to watch us drink this fabulous beer without you being able to even smell. Actually, you can't look at it anymore. This is
sort of the syndrome, and this is why actually it's perfect that we're talking about it on the show like this tonight, because it would be very hard to find a beer like this on both sides of the water at the same time, because it is a short run, a very short run. Yeah. And so it has that limitation to it.
Now, I will say that I think I've seen that here.
Yeah.
In Victoria. So I know I've seen Boombox. I don't know if I've seen necessarily that specific variety.
Okay. Yeah.
So moving on, the beers basically are very different from each other and both equally amazing.
But both having a kind of an awesome 80s retro sort of like
the
style, totally
element to them.
And the Rad is the Rad Seeker is very much a. I mean, you could see Paula Abdul wearing that as a T-shirt.
Rad Seeker, maybe? No.
No, Paula
right here, Rad Finder.
Rad Finder. Okay. Right on.
And I just have one thing to say for Longwood Stoutnik, and that is da. Da.
Da. So, okay, well, this obviously is a really good beer night for us, and everyone is happy. Everyone is pleased. However, there's some really sad news today that we need to talk about. The Simpsons fires longtime composer Alf Clausen. What?
I know, right? What's up with this?
Is that because of its ties to the Russians?
Which? What?
I'm kidding.
Okay. Apparently,
the U.S. election.
So Alf Clausen has done the music for The Simpsons ever since season 2. So whenever, See My Vest and all these great songs and the little musical interludes and stuff, they were all done by Alf Clausen over the years. And I guess he has a fairly large orchestra that that goes into the millions of dollars every single year to operate. And I guess the Simpsons have decided that they want to change things up, i.e. save some money. So they don't want to pay for a big, large orchestra anymore. So Alf Clausen, you're canned.
So it's discrimination.
And so they're going to go in a different direction with their music starting this coming up season. Now, interestingly, their first episode airs in 6 weeks or something, and apparently they don't have music to any of it. So the music hasn't been done for even the first episode, which airs in 5 to 6 weeks, something like that.
I don't know about you guys.
I don't know if that's normal or not.
The feeling that somebody didn't think this through terribly well.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're TV executives. They must know what they're doing.
How much of so they're not changing the main title theme, are they?
Well, this is an interesting thing. So the main title was not done by Alf Clausen. It was actually a Danny Elfman thing. So they own that and they can do it. But apparently in the musicians union, there is a clause in their contract that says that theme song music needs to be re-recorded every few years. So,
of course there is.
So it would have to be redone probably, I would say, fairly soon, just to meet that requirement. I didn't know that. I found that out for.
Can you sing or hum the theme music to The Simpsons?
Of course.
Okay, please do.
Why?
No?
Okay.
I
Yeah, something like that. Anyway. I'm not a singer.
I think everybody who attempted to do it would probably get it a little bit wrong, but if we averaged them all, we'd probably get it sort of mostly right.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So anyway, yeah. So new music coming.
Well, it's iconic. It's sufficiently iconic that all of us could hum it. So that's a sort of a.
I don't think they're going to change the tune.
That's a level of cultural penetration. We can hum it, right?
But I don't think they're going to change the tune or the theme song.
I'm not saying
the same, but they'll just.
I'm just trying to guess. Like how much of The Simpsons is really. How much is the music really doing that show?
Well, some of the music in it is quite iconic. Aside from the theme song, like they're right off the top of my head, the "See My Vest" song that Mr. Burns sang is one of them. Apu sang a song when he lost the Quickie Mart.
Who needs the Quickie Mart?
Quickie Mart, I do. There's quite a few songs, especially in the earlier seasons, that are fairly iconic.
Okay, I believe that. We all can come up with instances, I think.
Now, having said that, I would wager that it's been a few seasons since anything that Alf Clausen has done on the show has rivaled anywhere close to the stuff that he did in the first 10 seasons. So, maybe there was room for improvement. I don't know.
My suspicion is that he just got too expensive. And if you look at, I was just looking at the level of I want to say penetration, not penetration, of people watching the show has dropped significantly over the last, decade, to the point where some people would argue that based on the ratings they get, they're still a little higher than some shows, but a lot of other shows have been canceled at the same time. So with those types of ratings, so it's kind of one of those things where it's an iconic show. It's been around for 28 seasons, but at the same time,
it's no Futurama.
Hell, Futurama came back. It had a return, long after its cancellation. So I don't know. It kind of depends on is The Simpsons relevant anymore, I guess is what I'm really trying to say.
I would say no, but they're, I put them in the same kind of light as Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live goes through stretches where it's irrelevant, and then suddenly it'll pop right back to being relevant again, to the point where it's like you can't imagine life without it. And I think Simpsons could be like that. I could see it becoming relevant again in the future.
I can see that argument, definitely. So you think that in the next, a few years, that it might be something worth following up? Is that kind of what you're saying? Or
sure, why not? I don't know.
Sure. All right. Okay, cool. What about you, Dave?
I would be afraid to get into it because, holy shit, 28 seasons. I would not want to work through that.
No, not at all? Why not?
No. As cool as it is, and I've seen some, no. 28 seasons? Jesus Christ.
If you think about it, some of their cast are like starting to die off.
Yeah. They've even, they even killed off characters, because the, people doing the voices were not well.
Really? Like who?
They
had.
Well, Phil Hartman died.
Yeah.
Her name escapes me, but she did the voice of Mrs. Krabappel. Died fairly recently.
Exactly,
That's about it for the ones that died. But I mean, the rest of them are getting on in years. I mean, they're not getting any younger. Julie Kavner, who does Marge, she was on Rhoda back in the 70s.
What about Harry Shearer does a few voices, does he not?
He does quite a few. And actually, he ends up getting into labor disputes all the time. He threatens to leave the show unless they give him more money. You know, he was actually threatening to leave. It was last summer. He said, "No, I'm done." And the producer said, "Well, fine, we'll just replace you." And he's like, "Really? You're going to replace me?" And they ended up working it out and everything, and he came back. But I think we're seeing sort of maybe close to the end of Simpsons. I don't know if they could keep it going forever and ever and ever. I'd like to see that, but I don't know. We'll see. So I've got another that I saw another article on the same website, and I thought it was kind of timely for what we were talking about a few weeks ago when we were discussing the all-girl Ghostbusters movie,
right?
And how it wasn't the fact that the remake was the fact that it was all women. It was just that they remade it, you know. So want to see what you guys think of this. Now they're thinking about remaking Lord of the Flies, but all girls.
No.
Or female focused, anyway.
Well,
no?
Okay, fine. Just don't call it Lord of the Flies. Right?
So is Lord of the Flies an iconic movie?
It's an iconic book.
Iconic book, but the movie version isn't iconic.
Remaking a book with a different premise, because I think it's fundamentally, if you're suggesting that there isn't a gendered element to a bunch of boys on an island as opposed to a bunch of girls on an island, I think you're wrong. It's clearly, if you're trying to imply that you can do the same book with a totally different characters, I guess my question is, why wouldn't you just write a new book?
Well, the thing I want to point out, this isn't a book that we're talking about. This is
talking about a movie based on
a movie version. So they're going to take the.
But the movie's based on the book. If like the title of the book is Lord of the Flies. If the title of the book were, you know, My Summer on an Island with a bunch of crazy sons of bitches. And the movie was called Lord of the Flies, that would be another matter. But the movie is called Lord of the Flies because that's the title of the book. It's meant to be a representation of the book. If you're going to remake a book, I guess I would just question whether you shouldn't title it appropriately. Like, and you know, sure, Lord of the Butterflies is a little glib, but you could.
I love it.
But surely, you could call it. Surely. Where does Shirley go? Shirley.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Well, here's the thing: is one of the realities about Lord of the Flies is that it is all boys. It's from a boys' school. I think it's been a while since I read it, but I know that I remember way back when that the author who wrote Lord of the Flies. Why am I blanking on that? Of all the authors in the world,
Arthur Miller.
Thank you, Arthur Miller. Thank you. Who basically said it a very long time ago about how
I think
when he wrote it,
by the way,
having no female characters is actually what makes that story work. However, he did also say that you could, in theory, have it all be female characters. Would it be the same story? Possibly, possibly not. But again, I mean, it was written at a certain time, a long time ago.
I'll tell you, if it was some male and some female characters, then it would be a totally, completely different story.
Oh yeah, they'd be like orgies and things.
Or not. I mean, there are other possibilities there. Not all of them pretty. Not all of them horrible either. I mean, we don't know what happens. That book hasn't been written. Maybe it has. What was that Blue Lagoon movie with? No, anyway, that's not a book. That's a movie. Or was that based on a book? Was the Blue Lagoon based on a book?
I don't know.
I don't believe so.
Or was it just based on Brooke Shields? Anyway,
I think it was based on Brooke Shields.
The other question is if you were to talk about the same premise and it was all girls trapped on an island.
It is based on a book.
I would suspect. Well, ultimately, the situation would become violent much more quickly.
The Blue Lagoon. Now, I've never, ever looked this up, but the Blue Lagoon was written in 1908.
What?
The novel The Blue Lagoon, written in 1908 by Henri de Stackpole, Irish author with a very French-sounding name. Anyway, I'm butchering it. Born in Ireland, is best known for his 1908 romance novel, The Blue Lagoon, which has been adapted to film on at least 4 occasions. He published using his own name and sometimes a pseudonym.
Wow.
This mother wrote a lot. That Blue Lagoon's like his, 10th or 12th book, and that guy wrote all the way to 49 because he died in 51. So, but yeah, he... wow. And I gather the Blue Lagoon he wrote more stories about it. I'll have to find that out, but apparently he wrote more. So there you go. But he wrote a bunch of things. Kids' books, romance novels. The Little Prince? Really? Wow.
What? No.
Really? Interesting. Maybe it's...
That was not... No.
Included The Little Prince, children's story included in something called Poppyland. Wow, we're learning a lot tonight, boys and girls, so you better get out there and start reading. I just finished my 37th novel the other day, reading. Yeah, so there you go. Wow, there's a lot of stuff. Cool.
You guys like Stephen King.
I was going to say, this guy is very much like Stephen King. This is like, what is, there was a long time ago, people were saying that, who writes the Xanth novels?
Piers Anthony.
Piers Anthony, where he obviously must have made a deal with the devil where there's a typewriter just cranking out book after book, and he's sitting around drinking beer. Although I did earlier this year, I watched an interview from some book event last year where Stephen King sat down with George R.R. Martin, and they talked about writing and whatnot and their stuff that they create. And somebody asked the question, how much writing do you do in a day? And King was like, well, I get up in the morning and I have breakfast and I basically write from, whenever I get started around 9-ish, 10-ish in the morning. And he has a goal to write, I think it's 5,000 words, something like that per day. And he goes until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So he writes for about 5 hours or so every day. And if he is on a roll, he writes more. If he is not feeling, the magic, he pushes through to that word count. Because, he can throw crap out if he needs to. And Martin turned to him and goes, really? I write like, I don't know, 300, maybe 400 words every couple of days. If I could write like you, the, Song of Ice and Fire done a long time ago.
The question I would have there is, of the 5,000 words that Stephen King writes a day, how many of them does he publish?
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, he actually said that. He said, I have to go back and edit that stuff because it's not all gold. But he's at least getting the story out.
Yeah,
so
no. Look, it's a method that I actually think is probably a really good one. I just sadly I'm not in the type of writing where I think I actually have that option. Like I need to be too focused and too on point to be able to just write 5,000 words and then just cut that.
Yeah, I'm
but that's not to say that it's not a valuable perspective. Like how much of writing how much of good writing, more to the point, is choosing the right words at the beginning of the process, and how much of good writing is editing it down from all the pile of stuff that you spat out in the first place, right? And I think that both could be viable solutions. Both could be viable strategies to write good material, right?
I bet you it's 50-50.
Well, I mean, so evidently, part of what we do here, Crafty Boys, is we spit it out.
Yeah,
we could like your neighbor Claire, do high production content from the beginning, choosing shots, camera angles, making the edit, something that was sort of, storyboarded in advance. No, that's not what we do here.
That's massive effort, man.
This is actually Alan, and this podcast, by the way, is the brainchild of Alan Ford, who said, "I just want to sit around and hang out with you guys because you're cool and drink beer like we did, 20 years ago."
Because it was fun.
Exactly. So here's to Alan Ford.
Then. It's fun today.
Father of the Crafty Boys.
Whoop, whoop. And if
here's
people
the Dave who showed up accidentally
like
the
it,
first day.
good.
Like,
if they don't, who cares?
Yeah, shut up, Dave.
All right, so back to our 80s retro theme here.
Okay.
Alan, do you ever have nostalgia for green screen?
For green screen?
I'm thinking, like back in the old days when.
Yeah.
You remember bulletin board systems? Because I think I have a funny feeling that's how you, Shane, and I first met, was through bulletin board activities. Do you have, at times, moments where you're looking at your data phone or whatever it is you're looking at, and you think to yourself, man, I miss green screen? Like black and
like
green.
monochrome.
Monochrome.
Yeah. In some ways, yeah. I miss the simplicity of it. I miss DOS. I miss command prompts and changing directories, and
it made you feel like you were in control back then, didn't it? All those command prompts.
I felt like a whiz kid. Like a computer whiz. I remember my people coming in, they were marveling over my first computer, and they're standing over me while I'm using it, and it beeped for some reason, probably because I hit the wrong key or something, and went beep, and they just laughed at that. They thought it was great. It beeped.
And over here, so we have the machine that goes bing.
Yeah. I remember when I first figured out how to program a beep, which I discovered, to my amazement, was sequencing a high number of clicks in rapid succession, and if you pitch it up, that is to say, repeat the clicks with greater rapidity, it increases the pitch of the resulting tone.
Right.
Yes,
that was a eureka moment for me.
Those were the days.
Oh, because they're just using a sine wave. Yeah.
Well, it would have been a square wave, I would guess, on the basis of it being clicks, but
a click?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
I remember playing a video game on my monochrome Leisure Suit Larry.
Yeah.
Which was a great adventure game with rudimentary graphics. But essentially, I mean, you're a guy and you're Larry and you're out looking for love, quote unquote. And it was hilarious. It was a hilarious game. And I think I was like about 16 or something when I was maybe 15 when I was playing it. And I'm playing it, you know, in the basement and everything. I'm hoping my parents don't walk in on me while I'm playing it. Oh, those were the days.
They were, man. They totally were. I'm actually looking. I have a picture. I'm trying to find it. Of course, I'll have to dig so far back in the world here, but I have a photograph of my monitor when my BBS was running.
Yeah, I remember that picture.
Back in the day. FidoNet Node 22. I still remember that. I don't know where I'm desperately searching for it, but I don't see it anywhere. But yeah, I mean that was, you know, those are the days where you just knew that there was something going on with the world, that there was something changing about it. But I mean, going from a 300, you know, modem to a 12 to a, what did I go from a 12? I think I went to a 14.4 maybe, 56, whatever the hell it was. And then, I don't know, within a year of that, you know, somebody actually, Shaw or whoever the cable provider was, opened up the internet, you know, for the first time, but at cable level speeds, which at the time were actually quite slow compared to today.
Yeah.
But and now you have companies like TELUS. I don't know why I'm talking about this, but anyway, TELUS going, yeah, well, you know, we got fiber in the ground. That's really cool and everything, but really we want to provide internet wirelessly for everyone using the cell network. You know, we just have to beef up the cell network, and in like 10 years, that's pretty much how we'll offer internet, because, you know, we're talking about right now about internet speeds of starting at 150 down and 150 up, but do a speed test on any, you know, cellular network, and it's going to be twice that speed most of the time. So, you know, I mean, if data was not capped at all, I would recommend people just getting a cell phone with a, you know, the LTE plan and go, you know, fill your boots, attach it to your computer somehow, and use that instead, because the speeds are not, it dwarfs anything that we have at home.
I remember when I was a teenager, there was a bulletin board system here in town called Heart of Gold.
Yeah.
And they had tons of pirated software that you could download, but the games were so big you couldn't download them in one go, and you're only given, I think, an hour a day on Heart of Gold.
Yeah, I remember that.
So to download one game would take probably about 4 or 5 days for you to download. And really, I mean, it was a game that was big enough to fill a 5 1/4 inch floppy, which is what, you know, like 500 kilobytes or something, or I don't even remember.
I'm going to ask Google because I'm good at that.
I have a feeling it was something like 516 kilobytes or something really, you know, awkward.
Yeah. I mean, now the internet now would download that in nothing, right? I mean, you couldn't, by the time you blinked, it would be done. And we're talking that it took 5 days to download that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you had the 3.5 inch, 3.5 inch.
No, these were 5 1/4.
3.5.
So 5 1/4, but the 3.5 started out at 1.44 meg, and then, or no, sorry, 700, half of that, so 784.
And then the high density ones came out that.
Yeah, and the 5 1/4s were. When they first came out, 360 kilobytes.
Wow.
So wow. I remember those days where you actually had that, you know, the big, you stick them in the machine. I mean, fuck, War Games. He had the full-on 8-inch discs, right? So
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, basically, we went straight from like vinyl to. I mean, I still have my very first USB key, which is 128 megabytes in size. Which now you trip over a USB key at the store, and it's like 64.
I still have all my floppy disks.
Really?
I do.
Cool.
All my 5 1/4 inch for my Commodore 64. They're still hanging around downstairs collecting dust.
That's kind of funny, actually. Remember zip disks and then jazz drives? Remember those?
No.
Oh, jeez.
Which I remember the first time I ever bought a zip drive, somebody it was like the typical thing they would tell you at the store. Now, don't forget, you can't run stuff off of this.
Guys, do you remember kissing girls? Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, no.
What do you think the hole was for in the 5 1/4 inches? Sorry, what?
I actually, so that dream I had the other night about the plot to it was Cersei Lannister we had a bunch of blue people trying to restart the timeline on an alternative timeline for the Highlander movies with Christopher Lambert. Somewhere in the process of that dream, I stepped out of a car and accidentally, and it was really frustrating in this dream, I stepped on a late 90s, maybe early 2000s mini disc. Do you remember mini discs?
The little tiny
Yeah.
CDs? Yeah, I used to have those.
Oh, yeah.
I stepped on one and broke it, and I was so frustrated because I'm like, I'm never going to be able to replace that data. Anyway.
Those were the days. Man, we're such nerds, man. We're such nerds. Remember when you used to burn stuff to like DVDs?
Yeah. I remember that.
Now it's all in the cloud, man. All in the cloud.
You know what? I've recently been lamenting the fact that there's no video rental stores anymore.
Yeah.
Like there was a social aspect of going out to a video store and choosing a movie. It had to be available. It wasn't already rented out. Maybe you had to reserve it or something. And going and picking it up off the shelf and taking it up to the counter and say, I would like to rent this movie, please. And you had to be kind and rewind and all that kind of stuff.
It was awesome because it was what human beings really wanted to do, which is not sit at home watching a fucking movie, but go out, A, hunting, B, in an environment where you're going to randomly run into members of the opposite sex. And the real point of going to the video store was to meet members of the opposite sex, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was the best place to pick up girls that I ever had when I was in my late teens, early 20s.
But, you can't forget. Don't copy that floppy. Sorry, my brain went there. The last story we have tonight, after we copy all of the floppies that we currently have, this happened the other day here in English Bay, where a bunch of people calling themselves the Campaign for Real Ale Society drank beer in public on English Bay. Mm-hmm. My favorite part is there's a picture of a guy in this article from the CBC where it says, a man drinks a beer at English Bay Beach. He's drinking a kokanee.
Yeah, that's not a campaign for real ale. That's
one thing I will point out that the Campaign for Real Ale camera is the group that puts on the beer fest.
Oh yeah.
So just so we're aware.
It's yeah. Have you guys ever wanted to drink in public? Aside from the Great Canadian Beer Fest?
Have I ever wanted to, or have I ever gone ahead and done it?
I would never admit to anything.
Yeah, I mean, look, in most of the planet.
Don't copy that floppy.
in most of the planet, it is totally legal to drink in public. It's only an eccentricity of North American weirdness that we think it's all fucked up to be drinking in public.
True.
Yeah. On that,
thank you, English Puritans.
However, I don't know if I really want them to. I mean, it's for Vancouver, so it doesn't really apply to me here in Victoria. But I don't know if I'd want them to change the rules, because part of, I think, what's enjoyable about drinking maybe in public is that you feel like a bad boy. You know, like you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. And I don't know. I don't want them to legitimize that. You know what I'm saying?
U.S. where you're not allowed to drink and drive. That is to say, you're not allowed to drink while you're driving.
Right.
There are other states where you're not allowed to be drunk while you're driving, but drinking and driving, drinking alcohol while you're driving is fine. You know, like different places have different rules, and they all maybe have their own reasons or whatever. But I'll tell you, like in countries where it is totally 100% legal to drink in public, it's not like the rule of law suddenly breaks down and everybody starts going crazy and killing each other. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Yeah.
It's not as dramatic as all of that. I've been in Turkey, which is ostensibly a Muslim country. You can find bottles of wine at odd hours anytime you like. Compare that with Canada. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Hey, one last thing before we sign off.
Don't copy that copy.
I did.
He did.
No.
Okay.
You did?
It was an actual thing.
It was an actual thing.
I'll play it for you later.
That's a little bit mental, but
don't copy that Floppy. Creativity. Anyway,
so before we sign off, I just wanted to say that I saw one article before we went on from the Beaverton. I don't know if you're familiar with the Beaverton. It's a Canadian sort of satirical news website, kind of similar to the Onion in the States. Anyway, the Beaverton was reporting that the Houston Red Cross is running an extreme short supply of thoughts and prayers. So if everybody could spread thoughts and prayers, they'll be much better off.
Oh.
So please, everybody go on Facebook and wish thoughts and prayers for Houston. Don't actually donate money or food. Don't mobilize anything.
They don't need your money. They just need your thoughts and prayers.
Just send thoughts and prayers. That's all you have to do is put in your subject line or whatever, your status, thoughts and prayers to Houston, and all will be better. The Red Cross in Houston needs you.
Don't copy that Floppy. On that note, good night, everyone. Thank you for watching. Of the 5,000 people that have been watching tonight, we strive to please. Don't forget, follow us and all those other things. But roughly every Wednesday night, we're here around 9 o'clock Pacific Standard or daylight or whatever it is. Come and join us and give us some feedback on what beer you think we should drink, because we like most of it. I think.
Cheers.
Don't copy that Floppy.